Today, I hope you guys are truly being blessed and experiencing all the goodness that the Creator has given to us. We truly, as we grow and as we learn and as we release and as we pull to, draw to those things that come from the spirit realm, we will begin to see our world change. For some of you, you've experienced a great rush of peace. Doesn't mean life is perfect, doesn't mean you don't ever have struggles or encounters, or doesn't mean any of those things. It just simply means that you can recognize, you have come to consciousness that there really life is, and it is maybe in the way that you used to view it. And so I think that's the greatest paradigm shift that happens, is when you begin to recognize, not that you have full understanding, not that you know everything, simply that you recognize that life isn't what they told us it was, and that you begin the journey of learning what life is. Beautiful examples that we saw over on Saturday and last week, and yet again here today, is a beautiful picture of Yeshua. He's going to answer some questions that I've been telling people for a long time that just did not line up with Christianity, and the Bible, as I read it, did not line up with a lot of the Christian doctrine, dogma, if you would. And so it's not against them. Whether it's intentional or unintentional, whether it's just happened over decades or not, I can't answer those questions. I have opinions, but I can't answer the question whether they intentionally have misled the whole world or haven't. Whether they intended to or not, that's still been the fruit. And so we're looking in They Walked with Jesus, a book that was written 20 years or so ago by Dolores before she passed away. And this is a deep past life regression of somebody over the course of weeks and months who, as it works out, ended up being a niece to Yeshua. I suspect probably if we really understood things, we would find that we have all been in different places, and some of those places are quite important and would surprise us, and other of them are very mundane. So not every life that you have means that you're something special, so to speak. Sometimes the beauty of what you were to learn was to learn to be at peace and to learn how to enjoy what peace is and living a very simple life. And then sometimes we come back into lives where we are very powerful or very spoken or very rich, but all of our lives haven't been exactly the same. And maybe you came in once as a female and another time as a male, and that's not surprising, nor is it negative. It's actually very positive. It really does speak that our spirit is non-gendered. It's our bodies that are gendered. And so we're going to pick up where we left off last week. And it's in a dialogue with Abigail, and there's some really beautiful things you're about to hear that Yeshua said and how he felt about himself. I wish that I could help more people in the world to see this, because I think that it would probably change their perspective of reality as well as life. We're no less and we're no greater, and that's a wonderful understanding to come to with yourself. So before we get started reading, we like to come together and we put our hands together. You bring them to your heart. Everything, as you'll find out from Abigail today, everything Yeshua did was about his heart. When you understand the chakras, you'll know why. And so we bring ourselves to a heart center, it's called, and then we simply bow to each other and we say namaste. And so I hope you truly are blessed. I feel like I'm one of the most blessed men in the world. Many of the things that I have been are slowly but surely fading, and many of the things that I haven't been are starting to gain prominence. And my friend, there's nothing more beautiful than watching yourself change and recognize so they walked with Jesus. We left off last week with Dolores asking Abigail a question. She says, that makes sense to me. Well, are they having a gathering in one of those underground rooms? And if you've been with me, then you know. If you're new here and you've just come, then that is not going to have as much of, it's not going to give you as much understanding. But if you'll hang with us, you'll see what's going on. And so Abigail responds, yes, he is welcoming everybody. I love this because immediately you see how contrary the way that Yeshua was to Judaism. I have to tell you, this wisdom and understanding is the thing that made me walk away from being Torah observant more than anything that there was. It wasn't that we were trying, in fact, we were trying to please the God. And I think that's honorable no matter whether you're right or wrong. But I will tell you something, after having gone through the gamut of Christianity, and after gone through the gamut of being, as I believe we were, as close to Torah keepers as any Jew has probably been, and certainly a Jew that's not a Jew, to come into the peace and the understanding of what it means to be at peace with God and to not be scared about what's going to happen to me. And so Abigail says, yes, he is welcoming everybody. He was a very kind and loving man, I believe. And she says, I think this evening he is trying to get across that he is walking this earth just as we are in a body of flesh. Well, I used to struggle with preachers because they would tell you that Jesus was God, and then the Bible tells us that Jesus suffered just like every other human being. Well, I don't care who or what you are. If you are a God inside of you, you can't at that level suffer all that a human went through. And so he's trying to get across that he is walking this earth just as we are in a body of flesh. Are we flesh? No. Do we live in a body of flesh? Yes. Will we live in the body of flesh less as we come to understanding of enlightenment, and even more so as we begin to exhibit enlightenment? Absolutely. The world will have less power. The things of the world will mean less. Doesn't mean that you don't function every day just like humans do. It simply means that those things don't have the power to pull you that they used to. And so, and yet, what he is or what he can do, he's in a body of flesh, and that we can do what he can do. Well, his own words say that even in the Bible. These things that I do and greater will you do because I go to my Father. And that was construed into something that because he went there, then there was going to be more power given to us. No, what it meant was as people began to awaken, they were going to be able to do the same thing he did, but you had to awaken. What is his message? Awaken. You are light. You are God. Quit being slaves to religion. And so it is only that we have to open our inner selves to an awareness of acknowledging it. And so 2,000 years later, there's somebody sitting in Missouri telling people that you must only open yourselves and you must awaken to what we truly are inside. Friends, we are light. It is inside of us. I don't care how bad the person is. Now, can our minds allow our bodies and our thoughts to overpower our light? I absolutely believe that is the truth. I think that plays out every day in front of us. But so it is only that we have to open our inner selves to an awareness of acknowledging it. And he believes that once you reemerge through living through the heart and knowing that there is God in you, which is connected to this all-encompassing God, then you will find more understanding and you will know that you can heal yourself and others. Now, I know that we constantly look at healing as being something that's physical, but friend, all you have to do is open your eyes in our society to understand that the greatest healing that needs to happen in a human life is the healing of the mind. And so whether it is of the emotions or not, he says you will know that the possibilities are there for all of us. So this whole concept of us being the creators of our reality was part of the message that Yeshua taught. And so Dolores asked, I suppose many people think he is the only one who can do these things. It's a very valid question. And Anna responds, whenever he is questioned about that, he does his best to make people understand. No, he is made the same as they are. The only difference is that he came to his awareness of human possibilities, and there are no other differences. So all of these doctrines and teachings that fill the airwave and fill the pulpits on Sun Worship Day that tell you God was a deity are lies. He wasn't a deity any more than we are. Now, he does tell us, do you not know that you are little Elohim? So it doesn't mean that the divine doesn't reside in us. In fact, that is what causes us to be light, is the divine nature. Even really mean, hard, rude people have the divine nature in them. But we're all on a stair step. Many of you know my testimony that one of the first visions I ever had, I looked and I saw, and I believe now that it was probably very similar to the picture that Yaakov saw at Peniel when he entered into the third eye and had a vision, and he saw people, angels ascending and descending. In my picture, there were people standing on every step. Not one step was empty. There was someone on every step. They were great limestone steps, and they went from here to the heavenlies. The interpretation that I got is the Creator was trying to give me a perspective that everyone is headed in a higher direction. We're just not all at the same place at the same time. So there will be people who will hear this and who will totally deny it, but that doesn't mean 5 years from now they won't acknowledge it as being the truth. Why? Because they're on a different step. So for us, I believe that the source creator wants us to come to an understanding that we all are. Some just don't recognize it yet. And so she says the only difference is that he came to his awareness of human possibilities. So we do live in a time right now where there are people who are coming to the awareness, and even if at the beginning, they are coming to the awareness of their possibilities. They are starting to imagine and create in their minds pictures of healings. They're starting to create in their minds pictures of goodness. And maybe some of you have already, in subtle ways, have started. Maybe some of you in more not so subtle ways. But the Creator wants us to take the authority that we are as a creator. If all create the right picture, heaven truly will live here on earth. And so, the only thing different from Yeshua is that he was enlightened. How can we be like Yeshua? As we grow in consciousness and gain enlightenment, we will become the Christ. It's really beautiful, friends. And so he dresses like the average man. He wants nothing special. He wants people to know that there is really no difference, and that the laws of God make everybody one. Well, you would think that the laws of God in this concept mean the laws, number one, that are in the Bible that have been presented to you as the laws of God, which they aren't, or at least not in whole totality, Or maybe, how about the laws of Christianity? And yet again, that's another big X. That's not the laws of God either. And so Yeshua gives us a really simple version of it. The law of God, all of it, all of the universal laws which I've shown to you and shared with you, the laws of gender, the laws of motion, all of those things we learned about in the Kabbalion are the laws that govern the universe. And all of those things are summed up on two things. If you do these two things, you will have accomplished all of the laws of God, if you would. And that is to love yourself and love your neighbor just like you love yourself. Don't do to people what you don't want done to you, and forgive people even when they do. And so he wants people to know that there is really no difference and that the laws of God make everybody one. We are the collective soul. The only important thing is to live through your heart. Now that's a simple statement to say, but not necessarily a simple statement, because we each individually do not know, at least at this level, we don't know the hearts of everybody. So we may have a good heart and we may be around someone who has a bad heart, and if that person lives through their heart, it's not going to balance very well. That's why sometimes maybe you go around people and you see their behaviors and you feel really uncomfortable. Maybe sometimes you don't even want to be around them, even though you have a love for them. But it's like, me and this person are not on the same wavelength. I used to struggle with why that was, and now I'm beginning more so to understand it, that it's not that we do anything except understand it, and then that we begin to rationalize that there's nothing that we can do. We must allow them to fulfill their journey, whatever that may be. Whether they place lots of value on their journey or they place no value on their journey, they're still on a journey. And so as you begin to understand that these things are predetermined before we come into an incarnation, then you understand that whether they know it, whether they have knowledge of it experientially or not, is really not what's important. If we have knowledge of it, then we already know the answers. We simply need to remember that we know the answer. And so he wants people to know that there is no difference and that the laws of God make everybody one. The only important thing is to live through your heart and to be of service and to care for one another. And if we don't learn those things, folks, it doesn't matter what we learn. See, all that these people are spending millions of dollars on to get that are called education, higher education, is actually some of the lowest form, the basis form of knowledge that you can possess. That's why they teach racism. That's why they teach these warped sexualities. I suspect that those things have existed since the beginning. And so Dolores then asked, but of course he had training too to teach how to be more aware, didn't he? And Abigail responds, she says, yes, but through this training, he realized that everything should not be kept so secret, so unavailable to the average person. He believes that this was not right. He believes that God's love and laws are for everyone. So this is what he is trying to spread. I guess he is just interpreting what he has learned, so he may teach it to the average person. There are many of enlightened people, but there are also many sects of enlightened people who don't want to talk to anybody but enlightened people. Yeshua wasn't like that. He went to the common person. He knew that there were some of those common people who would be capable of understanding his message. And so Dolores says yes, because many of them think these teachings are only for a few people and not for everyone. Everyone is already light. Whether you're extremely intelligent, whether you have the highest IQ in the world, or whether you have the lowest IQ in the world, you are still light inside of you. Your soul is light. And so Abigail responds, and this has caused much conflict in other levels of society, which it does in ours today. They feel their power, their hold is being taken away. Because if the average person discovers that they can think for themselves and that they can walk their own path and be good and righteous, it will take away their hold. And so Dolores then responds, then do you think some of the priests know some of these things, but they treat it as sacred knowledge? And Abigail responds, this is probably the case. I don't know how they interpret it though. Everybody might have access to this knowledge, but the proper interpretation is important. And so as I've grown, I have less and less struggles. I recognize that there is much truth in the Bible, but it's how it was interpreted and how it's been explained down through Christianity to come to these things that are totally not what Yeshua was teaching. And so Dolores says that's why they don't approve of what he's doing. It's like telling their secrets to everyone. They probably think the average person is not worthy to know many of these things. And Abigail says, this is why he fills you up with such love and contentment. Because he tries so hard to get the message through that we all are alike. We are all here to be of service to one another. We should treat each other as we would want to be treated and be there when nobody is in true need. So Dolores again asks, are any of the people asking questions? And Abigail responds, somebody asked, if they spread his teachings and they feel that this is to be for everybody and the average person, then how can they protect themselves? How can they truly do this? It is hard to get to that point to dispel the fear. And Dolores says, yes, a very human emotion. And what did he say? Abigail says he talked about patience and knowing that if you do not walk in fear, then the eternal light within will grow brighter and brighter. So ponder that. Let me go on and finish, and then I want to come back to that. And all of those bondages of fear will be released. This right here is worth all that we will ever gain in our lifetime, this one sentence. Let's take a look at it. He talked about patience and knowing that if you do not walk in fear. Well, what is the power that is used in religion to teach you to walk in? The power is fear. Fear that you're going to go to hell. Fear that you're going to suffer eternal damnation. That was all concocted. It was all intended. It was never Yeshua's teaching. Are there bad things going to happen? Is there possibly even a class of people who will never accept the truth and something will happen? I will just say something will happen to them. It's highly possible. But what difference does that make? If I choose to accept the responsibility that I'm supposed to accept, then I have no need for fear. I don't need to worry because I know that I not only am going to the light, that I also am the light. So I really will be going to myself, which is why we go to higher self. That's why we need to search ourselves internally. And so he talked about patience and knowing that if you do not walk in fear, then the eternal light within will grow brighter and brighter. And I thought, man, that's $1 million statement right there. Do you know why some of you are not producing the light that you should be? The truth of the matter is, dear friend, is it's because fear is controlling you. And so fear is like a dimmer bulb on a light switch. When you allow fear in, it turns down your ability to be bright because you're so hung up, worried in your mind about fear. I used to use an acronym that fear is nothing but false evidence that appears real. That's a metaphysical statement, friend. I know I said it in Christianity, and I guess nobody knew what metaphysics were, but it's a very metaphysical statement. Fear isn't real unless you make it your reality. I don't have to fear. There's no rule that makes me fear. I choose to fear. Instead of choosing to accept light, instead of choosing to accept that it really doesn't matter. I mean, we have now 5 major events, unless there's been one new today, that tell me that something cataclysmic's coming for this earth. But friend, I have to tell you, I don't have any fear of that. If the whole earth explodes, it's not going to mean anything. It's simply going to mean my body's going to die, I'm going to be free, and Source has another path. That's all it means. And so I see in Paul's words the metaphysical power, and when Paul said, do not be like the pagans, the heathens, who do not know the truth, that we do not die. Because the fear of death is one of the most powerful. And so fear keeps us from being light. Wow, that's huge. And if I will learn to dispose of my fear that I have built inside of me, the more that I do that, the brighter my light will become. Why? Because I'm not negative. Now I'm really functioning in the positive realm. Doesn't mean saying everything is good makes you positive. That because I know lots of people who quote those cliche statements, and inside those people have as much fear and anxiety. So what they're trying to do is to convince themselves that this is true. Once you finally get yourself convinced that it is true and you begin to live it, then you will watch it manifest. And so, and all of those bondages of fear will be released. But we all have to make this discovery for ourselves. So it's not just me saying that the reality you're living in, you created. It's really not me saying that at all. It's something I've recognized. I see things change. I make statements to myself constantly about, well, they will begin to change because I'm changing. And I watch this go on in small ways all the time. But we all have to make this discovery for ourselves, and the wise person will proceed with caution and not be afraid of the truth and of reaching out. Isn't that crazy that many people live their lives fearful of the truth? A statement was made recently to someone that I know. This person was listening to some truths that were being exposed, and they were very strong Christians, and they kind of like turned around and walked away because they could not deal with the truth, and that fits right here. But this is what they said. My fear is that what you're saying is the truth. So the fear that was keeping their light dim was actually the fear that what they believed was a lie, but that the truth that had been exposed to them. I think there's a lot of, how do you say it, a lot of intelligence in that statement. It leaves being in that situation, that fear will lead, if it leads you to the truth, will also dispel the fear that led you there. And so Dolores says, but that is a very real fear because there is danger in what they are trying to do. Abigail says yes, but if you proceed with caution and know you are being asked for this information, then the words slowly penetrate. Once you see that little glow, you don't even need words to know that changes are being made. And it's so crazy because that's what I just explained that I'm starting to recognize. It's nothing monumental, friend. Awakening is not something that you do one time and it's accomplished. It's a lifestyle. It's something you do every day. It's something you do every minute. It's something that you constantly must have in the front of your mind. And so once you see that little glow, you don't even need words to know that changes are being made. It seems as if people will come to you and ask. And in the asking, you will know if you are being of service to someone. That in itself is part of the nonverbal communication. Showing people you can care. Caring and helping and not demanding anything for it. So Dolores says, but I can understand why they feel that fear. Did anyone else ask a question? And Abigail says, a man also said it was hard for him to understand how he could be his equal. And Jesus goes over to this person and has him feel his hands and his body to know he is of flesh. Once again, hands and body. The hands are actually one of the portals. I shared this with the sister the other day. We haven't really had knowledge of it, but there's really a lot more. So here's the significance that just hit me. We oftentimes see pictures of Yeshua's hands like this, you know, the praying hands kind of a deal. The metaphoric value of that is the power that is in your hands. Do your hands pray? No. But are your hands an outlet for the chakra power, the energy that lives in you? And the answer to that is absolutely yes. While Christians may not know that, doesn't change it. And so, and to know that if the desire and the intent are there, and she smiles very broadly, oh, it's beautiful to watch. Because you can see that love coming through his face to this other person. It's as if this other person is mesmerized and doesn't even need words. The Nazarene gives the understanding that no matter what your past has been, if you come to these feelings and revelations at any point in your life, it is all right. It is all right because the moment is of the most important at whatever stage of your life, whether that be while you're early or whether that be the last day that you exist. And it is very true, I believe, from what I've seen, from what I've encountered. I shared the story with you guys of the guy who I never knew who he was, and the Creator spoke to me and said, just simply love him. See, I didn't understand the significance of all that I went through 25 years ago. I wished I had understood. But I needed to go through those journeys so that I could come to a place that I could understand. That's a sign of his faithfulness. He loves us. He desires for us to become more than what we are, and by doing so, that will feed the desire to then again become more than what we know we are. And so she says the Nazarene gives the understanding that no matter what your past has been, if you come to these feelings and revelations at any point in your life, it is all right. So I would say to you, friend, it is all right. It is all right because the moment is of the most important. That moment, when you begin to recognize that something's not right, and it won't be a negative not right, but when I say that what I'm really trying, I think what I'm metaphorically saying is that you are beginning to be out of alignment. You could say it also that your timeline is beginning to change. Many of you have experienced that. Maybe you've been friends with somebody and you listen to their words, and yeah, maybe you didn't care for them all that much, or you didn't care for the way they speak, or you didn't care for the way, but all of a sudden you begin to be uncomfortable. Now, we have to judge and evaluate that, okay? Because sometimes the uncomfortableness is us. It's not them. It's us. And so a person who is constantly looking inside of oneself will be able to discern that. People who are only looking at other people will say, well, these people I don't resonate with, and they'll leave. And this is a really sad thing because it's happening all over the New Age realm. And to be quite honest with you, friends, the New Age realm is anything but new. It is a modified form of the ancient. But so is Christianity. So, if that helps you understand that. So, The man probably meant, how could he be equal when Jesus could do all of these wondrous things? Abigail says, and the things that the Nazarene does, he lets him know that he too can do them. Here's the saddest travesty. We all can do them. Think about if it was like a wildfire in California and people truly began to figure out what they were. Do you know how swiftly the whole consciousness of the world would shift? We are so powerful, and even more so when we come into league. That's why Yeshua said, when two come together, I am in their presence. There is very definitely something when people with the right intentions choose to join spirits together, if you would, join hearts. There's much power in that. I heard the words growing up in Christianity when people were praying about us joining together, and of course I had no knowledge, and neither did they, that what they were doing is practicing this principle of multiplication. That if beings of light, the problem is in many of those situations there were more beings of darkness than there were beings of light, and so you never watched the same kind of manifestations. Although I've seen many manifestations in Christian churches, friend. I've seen many people healed over the course of my life. There's no question. We were Christians praying in tongues. We were Christians. We were doing Christian things. But in the realm I was blessed to be birthed into and then grow up in, even if it was not known that we were metaphysical Christians. And I was taught to have a belief in the supernatural from my earliest age. Many of you probably were. Now, was there some things that were maybe out of balance about that? Yeah, absolutely there was. But inevitably, Source will bring you to a place of ultimate truth if you will continue to seek for Him. If you get what you seek for. Not what you necessarily need. And so, this person's having a struggle, trying to rationalize that they really are capable, which tells you where they're at enlightenment-wise. And so, Dolores says that is what is hard to believe. He has taught these people, or the people in your other group, how to do the healings. Abigail says, there have been a few, but it is also a very slow and careful process. Because one has to heal oneself first, and that is another, for me, I'm kind of dancing inside right now because I've been telling people this for years, most of which have never taken heed to my words. The whole concept of the beam in your own eye, friend, your purpose is to help other people, but you're useless to fulfill your purpose until you heal yourself. Just so you know, we were made that it was a negative concept. When Yeshua was supposedly being beaten and hung on the cross, they said several times to him, come down off that cross and heal yourself. The reason that they said that was because they knew who and what he was. Did he have the ability to? Yes. Do we have the ability to? Yes. He may have been at the place of understanding. We may not be there yet. But I promise you, as people enlighten and come out from under the fear, and as they begin to grow brighter, we will watch, I believe, in our lifetime, powerful healings go on. There will be the detractors. There will be those people who say it's witchcraft. There will be those people who say it's magic. There will be those people who say it's not real. And none of that means anything. I know it's true because I've already lived some of it. Maybe not at the level that I would like to see. so she says there have been a few, but it is also a very slow and careful process because one has to heal oneself first. And if one is given too much, then it does not work the way one had hoped. I've experienced all of this. Then much learning will get confused. It will go backwards and get stopped up, just like our chakras do. So you have to be very careful and let them only handle what they are ready for. And I'm trying to learn this personally more and more. That just because I'm ready for something else doesn't mean other people are. But that's part of the lesson. Part of the lesson is to learn what you are, but part of the lesson is to learn what you're not. And sometimes what we're not is very patient. Sometimes what we're not is very long-suffering. See, to be long-suffering, it means it takes somebody a long time to get something. And so I think that there are many roads and many avenues for us to grow on, no matter where we're at. And so we can only deal with what we are ready for. That's why I said to some of you, some people will hear my words and they don't mean anything. In 5 years from now, the light will come on and that person will change, and it will be because of something that was said that's inside of them. It's seed. Our words are seed. And so Dolores says, yes, if you would give them too much, they won't understand it anyways. And I've done that. I've overwhelmed a lot of people. I don't mean to. I just am so full of things that I desire to share, and I suspect that maybe there were times where Yeshua felt the same way. I'm not as mature as Yeshua was. As I mature, I will learn to discern those things faster and quicker and better and easier. But nonetheless, Source loves us, and He's going to make sure we get an opportunity to hear the truth. And so sometimes people just can't understand things. And they could be very frustrated, Abigail says. You must also learn that you cannot have expectations. And that's another huge statement for us. These are amazing learning statements, friends. You must learn to have faith. Everything cannot always be translated into words. Yes, that's true, Dolores says. When he says you must heal yourself first, I wonder what he means by that. And Abigail says, he means that you have to come to the awareness that you are this being of perfection. So is it really the physical body healing that we need? And the answer is unequivocally no. Do we need that for while we're here? Yes. Is it desirable? Yes. But friend, inevitably, you're not a human. You are a being. You are a soul, part of a collective soul. And the healing that you need is your soul healed, coming to knowledge of what you are. And so you must learn to have faith. We like that. And we don't always have words. Maybe some of you have experienced that. And I know I jumped back a little bit, but that's because I believe it's quite important. Maybe some of you, it's so bad. I know I've talked to people and people say, I'm so full on one level and I want to tell people, but I just don't seem to have the words. And that's okay. The fact that you made it to that point is a huge blessing. And so we have to learn that we cannot have expectations. And so, as I said, Dolores says, yes, that's true. When he says you must heal yourself first, I wonder what he means by that. I think the world's been looking for the answer to that statement for 2,000 years. What does it mean for the physician to heal themselves? And so she gives us that understanding. He means that you have to come to the awareness that you are this being of perfection. Everybody who comes along, if you've made it to this point, or if you come and you make it to this point, I would like to take 2 milliseconds and show you how simple it is to begin to implement this stuff. If you didn't do anything else, if you don't know anything about meditation, you don't want to meditate because you're not having success at it, I want to show you a piece that every human that lives on this earth can do. You can do it almost driving. You can do it stopped at a stoplight. You can do it at home. You can do it while you're cooking supper. You can do it while you're watching TV. And you simply close your eyes. And if you did this enough, eventually your consciousness will get a hold of it. But what if you did this one simple thing and you simply closed your eyes and you took a breath and you tried to find some inner peace and you reminded self that I am perfection. The minute that you begin to believe that, your world is about to change drastically. Now, it may be a long process to get to the point that you can actually believe it. But if you will, you can. And when you do, your world will get flipped upside down. And so, that we are being of perfection. I've been told I'm anything but for perfection most of my life. I've had so many Christian preachers speak over me that God could never use me, and on and on and on. Contrary, those people are enemies of the light. They pastor huge churches, and yet they spread and dispel lies as if they're truth. You are perfection. Don't ever let anybody tell you otherwise. And if they do, then it is time for a timeline change. You are this loving God essence. That's in every one of us. This is hard to explain, but it is an all-encompassing feeling of warmth and love and knowing that it is all right to be you. I know you're weird. That's what makes us so wonderful, is that we're all weird. Weird only means that you're different than somebody else who's viewing you. You are weird. You're amazing. Your love, your perfection, your light. Wow. You mean I'm all those things? You are perfect the way that you are. Does that mean all of our behaviors are perfect? And the answer to that, emphatically, I believe is no. Sometimes, even with this knowledge that we're gaining, you do things that you shouldn't have. That's usually a sign of how far you have progressed, because the more you progress, the less of those times you will have manifest in your life. It's a sign that you're still depending on your mind and your subconscious programming. You do it that way because that's what your mom and dad taught you to do it. And whether that be hateful or rude or mean or hard-hearted, all of those things you were programmed to be by the time you were 7 years old. And some of them you brought in from another life. That's absolutely true. And so you are perfect the way you are, and through acceptance of this kind of understanding and love, then you can begin to transfer that to others. So we could say it like this then: until you come at peace with yourself, and I'm not talking about come at peace with your flaws, I'm talking about come at peace with the perfection that you are. See, there's a huge difference there. At the same time that you are flawed, your spirit is perfect. We just need to learn how to listen to our spirit a lot more. Intuition is part of that. And so then, without that kind of self-love, so to speak, you won't be able to pass on the other teachings or the healing. So it truly is true. Until you confess your faults one to another, which is also part of your healing, you'll never fulfill your plan. And so Anna says yes, because the doors will open as you gain your own inner healing. So the rate at which you do this is totally dependent on the rate at which your heart Your heart is real. Your desire inside is to know God and to know yourself. And so, we have to first find self-love, and then as we find self-love, the doors of knowledge and light begin to open for us. And then we're in the process, and then the process, we can either slow that down, impede it, or we can increase it. So it is not a quick process usually, and I know that for myself I have to say it's been a long process. And so Dolores asked, have you ever heard of what is called a parable? Have you heard him use that word? And Anna says, smiling. These are found in the written word quite often, I've been told. They are stories that have two meanings if this is what you talk of. And Dolores says, I think so. Anna says they are written in a way where they will have a literal meaning, and then there is a deeper meaning. If you are of the knowledge to see it, and those other meanings hold a truth that is God's truth. You said that they were in the written word. You mean in the religious books or what? And it says, this is what I remember from my father's teaching and the written word of the holy books that are read in the temple. And this is what, when you mentioned parable, was my first thought. Dolores asked, have you ever heard it mentioned in connection with the Nazarene? And Anna says, I think he has used them, especially when he has talked to the priests and rabbis and government officials, and when he is talking to large groups. At those times, he might talk in these parables just to be cautious or to keep things peaceful. But he does not use this kind of talk in the smaller groups. Because he feels when he is truly wanted and people really want to learn, then he makes it as close and as simple as possible to what the true meaning is. So there's a new revelation for you. Why is it always tied up in the Bible that he's teaching in a parable? Because all that the Bible is recording is maybe some outward opportunities or things that he did outside, which is why you don't see the everyday life. That's beautiful in itself. And so Dolores says he doesn't try to be mysterious about it, because that's what we've always been told. Anna says, no, only this is hard to tell. If he has to teach a lesson and somebody has to find their own way, I guess it depends. You see, now I am thinking of other times I remember him speaking. If he is in a large group or if the group is fairly new, then sometimes he will talk this way. But yet he does it only so others might learn, and on the next visit or the next time he meets with them, they will usually discuss it. And by then, they would have come up with their own answer. So I guess at times it is a vehicle for teaching. Then he doesn't tell them what it means. He lets them figure it out for themselves. Yes, I guess that is the case sometimes. And so Dolores then says, I thought in some cases he might use it as an example for one who couldn't understand any other way. And Anna says, yes, I think that is what I was trying to say too. Because many times they will hear it, and upon reflecting and the passage of time, sometimes it will start their whole reemergence through opening of the doors. Because they will see it one way, and all of a sudden this light will grow. I just said that to you guys earlier. That oftentimes the seed will get planted. But it takes a while for that plant to break through the ground. And they will find clarity of understanding, so it is also a learning tool. And I think we're going to stop right there for today. That's been very beautiful. I'm very peaceful. I hope you guys will just be as full as peace. I'll sleep like a baby tonight. Wow, I am perfect. I'm not a mistake, and you're not a mistake. I'm not a happenstance, and you're not a happenstance. You are an eternal being who who will always exist. That's beautiful. So, shalom to each and every one of you tonight. I hope that you have been blessed, and I hope that you'll reflect and find some peace, and maybe spend some time contemplating whatever seed pops to your mind. Oftentimes we need to use those things that pop to our mind, because those are the things the universe is trying to get us to look at. And so we love each and every one of you. And I hope that all of your life will begin to glow for each and every one of us as we learn to recognize who we ourselves truly are. So shalom, and we'll be back on Saturday if Source wills. We'll hopefully look at some other things that'll suck your breath out of you, and have some more seed to grow with, and that we might all become enlightened. Shalom. Namaste.